When we buy video games, we expect them to be complete and mostly bug-free. After all, sometimes we do spend a fair amount of money on these things. But sometimes what you get is a game that is so incomplete and broken that it is almost unplayable. Which brings us to the game that we will be talking about today, LEGO Star Wars 2 for the Nintendo DS. Now you might ask, hey, didn't I already make a video about this game? Well, yes I did, but if you watched that video, you would know that that video was just about as bad as this game is. So, with a better mic and a better understanding on how to make these videos, I plan on giving this game a proper review. Now before we get too far in this video, let me explain my backstory with this game. This game was one of the first games I got for the DS, and since I was around 7 or 8 when I got it, I had no standards on what a game should be like. So when I played it, I instantly loved it and it became one of my favorite games. But this game also introduced me to the Star Wars franchise. So if it wasn't for this shitty game we're about to talk about, this channel might not exist. Now the question you might ask is, why was this game so different compared to the console game? Now the obvious answer is because the DS had limited hardware compared to the consoles and the game needed to be scaled down. While yes, that is the case, 2 years later LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga was released, and the DS version of that game was almost identical to the console game. That game was better than this game in almost every way, but yet only 2 years separated them. The main difference between the two was that LEGO Star Wars 2's DS game was outsourced to a company called Amaze Entertainment, and LEGO Star Wars The Complete Sagas was done with a different in-house dev team. You see, way back in the day, handheld devices were not on par with their console counterparts. So when a company wanted to have their game put on a device like the DS, they usually would have to scale their game way down or remake it from scratch for it to work. That takes a lot of time and resources from dev companies, so sometimes they would hire an outsourced company to port over their handheld games for them. This is what happened to LEGO Star Wars 2. So, how bad did Amaze Entertainment do? Well, as we'll see in this video, pretty bad. But enough of that, let's just dive into LEGO Star Wars 2 for the Nintendo DS. When you first launch the game, you'll be greeted with a pretty cool intro sequence where the company logos are displayed on the sides of ships from the game. I thought it was something pretty cool and unique to this game and thought it was a cool way to show them off. The first level of the game is actually not that bad. I kind of like it, and it's a good introductory level to get you used to the game. Even though it's a little different and feels a little cheap, it's good for what it is. You may experience lag in some areas, but it's nowhere near as bad as it'll be later in this game. The cutscenes in this game, though, are just weird. Like, look at this. What is this even supposed to be? Sadly though, this is one of the better ones and they only get worse from here. For the most part, Episode 4's levels, while not great, are not as bad as what's to come. I do have some issues with it though. One of them is just how easy level 3 is. All you have to do is put the Stormtrooper helmet on and walk through the entire level with no challenge. Which is very disappointing because this same level is probably the best one in the console game. Another problem I have with it is that the trench run makes absolutely no sense. Pretty much all it is just a boss fight between you and Vader's TIE Fighter, and all you really do is just chase him around and try to hit him. It makes no sense and I think it's dumb. They could have done a lot better with this. Worst of all though is the Vader Obi-Wan fight on the Death Star. I'm not even sure why this is a boss fight anyway. Obi-Wan dies at the end of this either way. It's just another thing prolonging this already weird level. Like all of the boss fights in this game though, it's super easy. All you have to do is just hit Vader a couple times and it's over. But worst of all is this. I'm not sure who approved this cutscene to be in the game, but it's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in a video game. Well, now that we're done with the New Hope, time to move on to The Empire Strikes Back, where we will find whatever this is supposed to be. I mean, I don't really understand where the developers got their inspiration for the Hoth battle. I mean, in what part of the movie did they fly in this cave system and shoot these green and red spinning things? The only thing they kind of got right in this level was using the tow cable to take down the AT-ATs, but it still just feels very weird. But it's nothing compared to the asteroid field. Now, you guys know I'm not a huge fan of this in the console game, but this just takes it to a whole nother level. All you really do in this level is just fly around this asteroid as smaller asteroids fall on you. It's just very annoying and feels like it was just slapped together. I don't know why they didn't just give us a Dagobah level instead, because sadly Yoda does not get a level in this game. Hey, but you do get to play as him though, and he's an absolute force of nature. It's actually kind of funny because sometimes you do get to see him stuck in the cantina, and it's hilarious. Other than that though, Cloud City's okay, I guess. You do get a few frame drops, but it's not really that bad. This part in the Luke and Vader fight's completely dumb though. If it took you hours to figure out what you're even supposed to do here, guess what? You're not alone. Because last year, whenever I came back to this game, I completely forgot about this. So essentially what this is that you have these panels here, and then you have this weird thing next to the doors, and you have to match those 3 panels up with the colors next to whatever these objects are, and you use the Force with Luke to turn them green and R2-D2 to turn them blue, but in nowhere in the game does it tell you that these are R2 panels, so you just kind of roam around wondering what you're even supposed to do. It's super annoying, and I hate it. But other than that, the Luke and Vader fight is just whatever, so let's just get on to Return of the Jedi. And you guessed it, it is horrible. When the developers were designing Jabba's palace, who thought it would be a good idea to add searchlights? Actually, the better question is, who designed this level in the first place so they can never work on a video game ever again? You can really start to tell that the developers were either getting short on time or just didn't care and wanted to get this game pushed out so they can make some money. That's really the only explanation I can come up with though, because there is no way anybody looked at these levels and thought they should be released to the public. But the searchlights are not the only problem in this level. Oh, there are plenty more, like the frame rate. The frame rate gets so low in this level sometimes that it feels like you're just playing this whole level in slow motion, which at first is a little funny, but the more you play it, it gets old very quick and you don't want to play the game anymore. So obviously the premise of this level is to go rescue Han. He is located behind whatever this barrier is, and there are 2 ways to get him out of this. Now if you're like me, the way you've always beaten this level is that you jump on this lamppost thing or whatever this thing is, and then jump into this cage, or I can't even explain to you what this is, and then free Han that way. Well, apparently the developers intended on you beating this level in a completely different way, and they did not explain to you how you're even supposed to do it. What you're supposed to do is that you're supposed to find a switch that deactivates the barrier. Now, there are plenty of switches throughout this entire level, and I flipped all of them, and eventually the barrier went down, so I don't know which one I flipped that deactivated it, but it was one of them. After you fight this monstrosity of a boss battle, now it's time to play probably the most slapped together level in this entire game. You start off having to create this turret to fight Boba Fett, and you think you killed him, but guess what? He comes back later on, but we'll get to him in a minute. This level is essentially just one big parkour challenge, as the camera breaks because it has no clue how to follow the character. That's not even the worst part though. The worst part of this level is whenever you have to play as the droids, because now the platforms you have to land on move. And guess what? The camera's not always positioned in a way you can actually see the platform, so you kind of just have to guess. It's super frustrating, and sometimes you spend quite a while trying to finish this. But hey, after you do all that, it's time to fight Boba Fett again, because apparently this game insists on you fighting him twice. But it's not really that hard though. All you do is just chase him around and hit him a few times. It's like every other boss battle. It's super easy and it's pointless. What was that supposed to be? I mean, really, that's all they could come up with? Alright, well, besides that cutscene, the speeder chase is not really that bad, but it's not really that good. So it's kind of just okay, but it's probably the best mission in Return of the Jedi, so hey, it does have that going for it. So let's just move on to this. just so you guys know, I hate every single line of code that goes into making this level. Who at Amaze Entertainment thought this was a good idea? You know, to be honest, I have no clue how to even explain this level. You have to jump from these platform things onto these logs, rescue some Ewoks, rinse and repeat. It's just bad. And oh yeah, not to mention that you're doing it in slow motion. Oh, and there's this part where like there's all these grappling points and you kind of just swing from log to log. It's I don't know what this is. I'm not sure who thought of this entire thing. Hey, and after you're done with that, guess what? It's not over yet, because now you have to endure this laggy mess while you go try to blow up the shield generator. And I don't even want to get into how weird this level is in free play. So we're just going to move on to the next one, which is kind of a weird one. Not that all of these levels were kind of weird, but this one especially for different reasons. The reason why I say that is because for the longest time I had no clue this level even existed. And that's because you don't have to play any of the levels to play Jedi Destiny. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Out of all of these weird levels in this game, this one has to be the weirdest. Believe it or not, I think they tried to imitate the console version's level in this, but it just didn't really work out. What you ended up with was a level that just felt weird. I think the weirdest part is whenever you fly on top of the Death Star and the Death Star feels way smaller than it actually is. Other than that, there's not really much to talk about in this level. It's kind of just there to serve the purpose of just being there, I guess. I don't know why they added 6 levels to this, because I feel like this didn't really need to be added in. The next and final level in the game is Jedi Destiny. And like I mentioned earlier, you can play this right off the bat. Well, actually you have to play the first level first, but after you do that and you unlock the other 2 episodes, you can play it just whenever you want, which is pretty convenient, so you wouldn't have to play the Endor levels. You can just go ahead and skip right to the end, so you don't have to worry about any of that. Now, I'm not sure if this is a bug or not. I'm not sure if this is how it's supposed to be. With this game, who knows? So as we get into the level, there is no opening cutscene. It just drops us into this mess. So pretty much all you try to do in this episode is defeat Palpatine, and they make it as weird as they possibly can. Eventually you'll make it to this room. Now I'm not sure what this room is, or what this spinning lightning thing is, but it just makes defeating Palpatine more of an annoyance because he's flying around the room and you can't really seem to get him unless you're playing as Vader and you can just choke him. But after you defeat Palpatine, Vader dies, and then you're greeted to one final amazing cutscene to end this game off. But we're not done yet, because now you get to play all of these levels in free play. And believe it or not, it's not too bad. You would expect free play to not really be that good, since it's probably something they weren't really that focused on, but it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was still broken like the rest of the game, but I'm shocked that it wasn't unplayable. There is one weird part about free play I do want to talk about though, and that's the weird cutscenes that are only found in free play. Now some of them are pretty funny, I guess, but then others are just there and I'm not quite sure what they were thinking. Other than that, free play is just like it is in a console game. Pretty much you're just finding mini kits that are hidden around the world. Okay, so instead of just ending free play off here, we're going to look at one level in particular to show it off. This level has all these special things in free play that I think would be worth explaining. And what level might that be? Well, of course, this one. Pretty much all of the free play mechanics will be found in this level. And I'm not going to go replay this level, so I already have footage from a video I did quite a while back. I'm just going to use that footage. So when you start free play in this level, you do not start out in the normal area that you start out in story mode, which is kind of weird because you got to go back there anyway, so I don't know why they didn't just start us off there. But as you probably guessed, they didn't make this level any easier to collect mini kits. I think the worst one is where they make you use Boba Fett to jetpack between these logs. It is insanely hard. But after you painstakingly search every part of this level for mini kits, it's time we look at the weirdest part of this entire game, and that is this weird hidden boss battle in this weird maze thing. So essentially all this is this weird created character that teleports around and throws bombs at you, and beating him gives you a mini kit. That's all. That's literally it. No special extra, nothing at all. Just a mini kit. So after watching this video, you guys may wonder, well, is there anything that's really that good about this game? And believe it or not, I've come up with a couple things. Not many, but just a couple things that I thought was pretty good about this version of the game. One of them is the character creator. The character creator in the console version of LEGO Star Wars 2, while still very good, this one is slightly better. Just for the simple fact that I think you can create some more wacky things in this version than you could the other one. I mean, heck, even the instruments that the Cantina band members use are considered weapons that you can give your created character. In the playthrough series of this game I made a few months back, I created a character called Darth 3PO. I liked that character so much that I went into the complete saga and tried to make him, and it turns out you can't put hoods over droids' heads. Another thing that I thought was pretty cool about this game are the cool extras that you can unlock. I feel like the ones they added to this game are a lot more unique than the ones they added to the console games. I don't know if they did that because they knew their game was trash and they just needed to add something interesting or what, but it is cool they gave us something that gives this game some sort of replayability. But sadly, the coolest part about this game is what this game could have been. I feel like the unique design that the developers were going for was a huge missed opportunity. I think if this game wasn't rushed to be completed, it could have been something really cool. I say that because LEGO Star Wars 3 took a very similar approach when they made the handheld port for that game, and that game turned out to be amazing, so rebuilding the game from scratch does not mean it'll be a bad game. But yeah, that's all I have for this game. I really don't think there's too much else to add to this. I know I didn't talk about the bugs, but I don't want this to be an hour long, so I just went ahead and skipped that. But hey, that might be its own video one day, so look out for that. But I had a lot of fun making this video. I felt like the last video just didn't do this game justice, so I went ahead and decided to remake it, and I'm glad I did. But I do have an announcement though. This video is actually a test run for a new series I'm working on for the channel called Nostalgic Retrospectives. In this series, we'll be looking back at older titles and seeing how they stand up today. I already have a list made up for the first few games I'm going to make for this series, but I am wanting some suggestions for the future, so look out for that series coming real soon. But if you like this video, please hit that like button, and if you like what's coming up in the future, then go ahead and subscribe. But other than that, thank you guys for watching.